Hello, I'm Carl Honore. I'm a journalist, author, and speaker, broadcaster. And for the last sort of 15 years, I've been the voice of what's called the slow movement. So I've been traveling around the world, sometimes quite quickly, making the case for slowing down, arguing that in a world addicted to speed, slowness is a superpower.
Carl, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks. Great to be with you.
So, Carl, talk to me more about slow movement. What does that actually mean?
Well, I'll tell you what it doesn't mean to start off with. It doesn't mean doing everything very slowly. I mean, that would be absurd, be preposterous. I'm not an extremist or a fundamentalist of slowness. I love speed. Faster is often better. We all know that. This slow revolution, slow with a capital S, is about doing things at the right speed. So it's about knowing that sometimes fast is the way to go, but other times you want to slow things down, right? So there's turbo mode, but there's also tortoise mode. Musicians talk about the tempo giusto, the correct tempo for each moment. That's a way of thinking
Ah,
about slow. It's a mindset, really. It's quality over quantity. It's being present in the moment, doing one thing at a time. Ultimately, slow is about doing everything not as fast as possible, but as well as possible.
hmm interesting. If we just think back a year, if not just a little bit more, we'd wake up early, quickly get dressed, quickly leave the house, uh, drive through traffic as quickly as possible, to quickly get to work, to finish things at work as quickly as possible, to quickly get home. And if we had kids or have kids, how quickly we can get them to soccer or piano or hockey, to then, quickly get home. And things are all quick, quick, quick.
Exactly.
We've
I mean, this
been,
is no. I was going to say. I mean, this is the state of the modern world. Is that we are all racing through our lives instead of living them. The virus of hurry has infected every corner of our existence, so that everything feels like a dash to the finish line, and it's reached ludicrous levels. I mean, you can attend speed yoga classes or drive through funerals. I mean, there's nothing we won't accelerate now. And people always say, well, I can't slow down because life will pass me by. That's completely the wrong way to think about it, because life is happening right here, right now. And the only way to get the most out of it is to slow down and be in the moment with that slow spirit.
and do you think that the pandemic has helped people realize the benefit of slowing down? Because we're not rushing. Like, I don't need to rush from my bedroom to my desk,
Yeah.
right?
Hallelujah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think the pandemic is a great moment of global reset. It's forced the world to go through a mandatory workshop in slowness, right? And I'm not a fan of the pandemic. It's been a total nightmare, right?
Of
But I
course,
think
yes.
the silver lining, I think, is that people have experienced the good side of slow, right? So if you look at the whole boom in, home cooking and home baking, all the walking people are doing, people talking about, having time to listen and spend time with their loved ones and families, the ones they live with anyway. And also feeling more productive, getting more done at work because they're not distracted, they're not fast all the time. They're able to control their speed, their rhythms, work wise, and also just on a structural collective level, you're seeing cities around the world closing down roads to traffic and making them now pedestrianized or setting them aside for cycling. So we're slowing down the rhythm of transport through our urban landscapes. There are many things now that people are coming out thinking, well, I've had a bunch of months now where I, as you say, haven't been rushing, right? I've rushed
Yeah.
less, I've done less, I've spent less. And they're thinking, what? I wouldn't mind hanging on to a little bit of that when this pandemic
Mhm.
passes.
That is so true. I want to focus a little bit on work, and what that means for people that want to embrace the slow movement or slowness, and what that means for work as a whole. Do you have
Mhm.
thoughts on that?
Definitely. People think that slowing down means you're a loser, you're a slacker, you're unproductive. It's synonymous. This is part of the taboo against slow. It goes so deep in our culture that slow is a dirty word. It's a byword for lazy, unproductive, everything nobody wants to be, especially at work, right? But
Yeah.
actually, slow is crucial in the modern workplace, even more than it was in the industrial era, right? Because we're knowledge workers, and human brains need those slow moments. The Economist magazine did a big survey looking at the pace of business and the working world before the pandemic, and came to a conclusion that's a perfect summation of the slow creed. The final paragraph of that Economist survey was something like, it said, forget frantic acceleration. Mastering the clock of business means choosing when to be fast, right? We all know that
Hmm.
bit, but also when
Yeah.
to be slow, right? When to be fast and when to be slow. So the future of work lies in that on-off switch, right? So when to be on, when to be off, when to lean in, but also when to lean back, right? It's about mastering all those different rhythms and paces, knowing when to switch off and when to switch on, relearning the lost art of shifting gears. And those are the people who master that art, which I describe as the art of slow in a sense. Those are the people who will inherit the earth, starting in
And
the
so
workplace.
I'm thinking it's more of a mindset, right? Rather than the speed of how things get done.
Exactly. Because you could be moving very fast, but on the inside, you're calm, you're focused, you're still, you're in control. It's like athletes talk about being in the zone, right? They're
Yeah.
moving through a hockey game, a football game, a soccer game, a tennis match at superhuman speeds. But on the inside, they are super calm, right? They are still, they are almost serene. And that's that mindset. That's the getting the, when you regain that ability to shift gears, to have slow moments, to move into faster moments, move fluidly between the two. Then when you're in the fast moment and everything is spinning around you at 100 miles an hour, you're like an oasis of zen, right? You can control it much better. And that's why, they've shown that people who meditate over a period of time develop a more density in the cerebral cortex, which allows them to process information faster, which brings me to what I always think of as the delicious paradox of slow, that those who slow down with meditation, which is one of the slowest things you can do, short of sleeping, are better able
Mhm.
to cope in the fast world, all that data and distraction coming at us, than those who never slow down at all, right? So I come back to what I said at the beginning, that in a world addicted to speed, slowness really is a superpower.
That's really fascinating. There's a lot of it's interesting you talk about meditation. I've seen on Twitter especially a lot of senior executives or people that you would sort of look up to as successful have embraced meditation recently.
Exactly. You can't swing a cat without hitting a mindfulness program, right? In the corporate world at all
Yeah.
levels, from the C suite right down to the factory floor, because it works, right? The science is crystal clear that meditation sharpens concentration, reduces feelings of stress, enhances feelings of calm, boosts well-being, and does that other thing I said a moment ago, but allows you to handle and cope with the barrage of speed that's going around you. So it's an ace in the hole. It's a no-brainer, which is why people, including and maybe even especially the fastest sectors of the global economy, like Silicon Valley, tech, Wall Street, are all over meditation, right? Because
Yeah.
they're not doing it because it gives them a warm, fuzzy feeling. Well, they probably get that too, but they're
Sure.
certainly not doing it because it gives them a halo of new ageism, right? They're doing it because it works. These are people who measure things by the bottom line output and metrics, and they know that meditation, the ultimate act of slow, delivers.
There's I can't remember the name of the app, but I've seen commercials, and I don't know whether it's as I was watching the U.S. presidential election and everything happening there, or as I'm watching sports, but there would be like a 15-second commercial or a 30-second commercial that a meditation app would be advertising, and it would say, "We're giving you back 30 seconds of your life. Just breathe." And that's
Mm.
all it does for the 30-second commercial. And there's sort of like a timer there where all you're doing is just breathing, or that's what it um, empowers the viewer to do. So it's really interesting.
I love that. That's
Yeah.
sort of gloriously countercultural, isn't it? Because so much of what, especially TV advertising, is breathless, right? It's this bombardment of sensory distraction and information, and then to take an ad and flip it around and say, actually, we're going to give you 30 seconds just to breathe. Don't be breathless. Breathe. Be breathful. Right? That's a
Yeah.
nice. It's a nice spin on it there. I think just if I could just make a little addition here to the work discussion and slow and so on in the pandemic. I
Mhm.
think one of the benefits of the pandemic, or one of the lessons that we're going to take away, is that what the pandemic has done for many people has given them control over their own working rhythms, their own times. And that's something you were already beginning to see as part of the slow movement in the workplace before the pandemic, was that forward-looking companies were saying to staff, okay, we understand that everybody has different metronomes, internal metronomes. So some
Yeah.
people are going to thrive getting up at 6 in the morning, banging, report out by 8. Others will be better off sleeping till 9 and getting up and doing their creative work between 9 and, and this is what I think companies will be doing more and more in the future, is saying, okay, here's the big deadline at the end. We've got 6 weeks to get there. You work out how you're going to use your time between now and then, either individually or in your team. So if you want to come in at 3 in the morning on a Saturday to knock out some code, go for it. But if you want to leave the office or leave the desk at noon on Thursday to go watch your daughter do ballet or your son play basketball or whatever, you do that too, right? Because we trust you. And that's why I think a lot of companies that have found themselves just forced by the pandemic to give more autonomy, more temporal autonomy, control over their time to their staff, are seeing this big productivity payoff. So I think we're going to see a lot more of that in future. And that's completely in harmony with the slow revolution. That's what big part of what it's all about, is giving people control over their own time and their own rhythms.
That's also like a mind shift, for management to, to be able to. I'm not saying that there's no trust there, but it's almost like, we've got these regular check-ins, right? So whether it's a weekly check-in or it's, people know if you're online or not at 9 o'clock or 8:30. Especially we're all connected with all these, whether it's devices or whether it's software, where you can, whether your coworkers are quote unquote online. And I'm
Yeah.
wondering, sort of that challenge of, working from home. There's this understanding that you've got a home life, you've got a family life, you've got a work life, and there's this need for balance, versus this idea of, my boss knows when I'm working, and that challenge, push and pull challenge.
There's a big challenge there, and I am not at all a fan of these software programs that measure everybody's movements and presence at the computer down to the last second. I think that's actually going in the wrong direction. I mean, the traditional workplace has been one of command and control, right? It's you
Hmm.
rule from the top by fear, and that probably made a lot of sense in the Victorian factory. It doesn't make sense in the knowledge economy, right? When people need to be relaxing, they need to tap into what psychologists call slow thinking, right? The kind of creative, blue sky, innovative thinking that comes when we are in a relaxed state. Networking, team building, all that stuff. You can't download that from an app or mandate it with a tight schedule, right? These things only flourish and blossom when the powers that be back off and give everyone else in the trenches the space, the time, and the freedom just to breathe, right? Coming back to breathing, just to let things happen at their pace. I'm
Mm.
not saying you don't have any control, but I think, again, before the pandemic, what we were starting to see again among smart thinking, forward-looking companies was a move away from the top-down control, fingers around the neck of your subordinates approach, and devolving power out, devolving freedom, handing out autonomy, and seeing a payoff, right? And you put your finger on a very important word there, which is trust. Yeah, there's got to be trust. I think for companies to take that first step, there's going to be a bit of a jump in the dark, but you'll see the benefits. If you don't see the benefits, then maybe that's the wrong staffer employee for you, and you move them on. Or maybe you need a conversation to work out how that person can use the new freedom more wisely, so it pays off for them and for you as the company. But this has to be the way forward. It seems to me a retrograde step to move into a world where people's bathroom breaks are being timed. I mean, that just, I mean, uh, toxic is the word that comes to mind.
I totally understand, Carl. This has been a fascinating discussion, and I'm sure people are going to want to take some time and really dive in. If you could, Carl, I know you've got a website and various TED Talks and books. What would you recommend people do to find out more about the slow movement and how to embrace it at their work and in their lives?
Sure. That's easy. I have a kind of one-stop shop site for that. It's just www. My full name, Carl Honoré, no punctuation, carlhonoré.info. And they're all there. You'll find the links to everything from talks to digital courses. So I've just published my first workbook, 30 Days to Slow, helping people slow down. Books are there. There's lots of video, audio, just loads of resources for people to take their first step, because everybody's going to find their own way towards the slow revolution. You know, some people are going to come at it through work, others through food, others through sex, others through their family life and children. So there's no right recipe to finding your inner tortoise, but we all have one, and we all aspire, I think, to reconnect with it. So I would just say, go out there and find your own way, and start on that website. It's a good place to start.
Carl, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Good chatting with you.
Power your advertising. Working with Active International enables you to fund your advertising using your company's own products, assets, or even services. We have over 30 years' experience connecting and bringing value to businesses all over the globe, helping many brands scale up into household names. Want to achieve more from your marketing spend? Contact Active International today.